quick Devar Torah. This week's Parsha Devarim. We're beginning the book of Deuteronomy. And Parsha Devarim always is on the Shabbat before Tisha B'Av. That's because this Parsha has to do with what we did wrong, basically. We're not exactly in the best of people. It happens. The important thing that is coming to teach us is something much more vital. It's not that we messed up. Okay, we did mess up. Did we learn from our mistakes? And that's the real important issue. If you notice, all of the heroes of the Bible are flawed. It's one of those things is we see their flaws from Abraham. Abraham has his flaws. Even David HaMelech, of course, has his major flaws. The thing is, they learned from their flaws. They learned how to overcome them. And that's an important issue. If you want to progress, then you're going to have to overcome your flaws. You're going to have to learn from them. Right now, there's a movie out called Young Washington. And the whole thesis of the movie is that George Washington was not George Washington when he was young. He had to learn how to be what we can say considered George Washington. He had to go through the French and Indian War where he messed up horribly, but he learned from his mistakes. David, as we know, the difference between David and Shaul was that, as we know, the story of Shaul was supposed to destroy Amalek. And he destroys Amalek, except he leaves Agag alive, keeps him prisoner, and allows people to take booty. The Torah is very specific. You don't do either of those two things. Okay? And Shmuel, Samuel the prophet, approaches him and says, Shaul, what's going on here? And Shaul denies everything. Oh no, they wanted the booty. No, Shaul, you're the king. You get the call, you call the shots. And the buck stops with you. And as far as Agag, Shmuel makes short work of him. He kills him on the spot. Saying this guy had to be killed. And we learned, by the way, that Agag lived long enough to impregnate somebody whose descendant was Haman from the story of Purim. That's why the story of the Megillat Esther makes it a point to show Haman's relationship. That Shaul did not learn from his mistakes. David, on the other hand, made very big mistakes, as we know. The whole story of Bathsheba. David said, listen, if I had the tests that Avram had, I would have overcome them. So God says, no, you know what, David? This is in the Midrash. I'm going to give you the same test. I'm going to give you a test. And unlike with Abraham, I'm going to tell you what the test is going to be. And you will fail. And he tells him he will see a beautiful woman and he will want her. So David girds himself up, takes a lot of cold showers, whatever, to make sure that he doesn't get excited. And sure enough, he sees Bathsheba, and we know what happens. And then afterwards, David says, well, God, can you do me a favor? Can we just sort of forget about this incident? And what does God say to David? David, I'm putting it front and center. Generations are going to read about what you did. But the important point is that David learned. He realized he had made a mistake. And he learned from that. And that's why David HaMelech, or King David, is our ideal of a king. Our ideal is somebody who's not perfect, but learns from his mistake and doesn't blame others. Something to think about.